One, Michael Cohen is a convicted liar. He's admitted to hating Donald Trump, and as of this morning now, he's admitted to stealing from Donald Trump. Two, street fight in Congress. You have to hear the audio of the street fight between AOC, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Jasmine Crockett. It will remind you of the esteemed founding fathers. A conversation with the redheaded libertarian, Josie. And three, I might be at the top of the mountain right now. This might be as good as it gets in sports, but it comes with a cost. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, the Fox News Facebook page, and always on demand, wherever you get your audio entertainment. If you prefer to listen to the Will Cain Show while you're driving around in your car, or you're getting a good 40-minute walk or jog in on the treadmill, just hit subscribe at Apple or on Spotify. If you prefer to watch the Will Cain Show, you can every Monday through Thursday, live. Hit subscribe on YouTube. You'll get the alert notification. We're up. We're live. Or watch us whenever you want. By subscribing, you'll see past episodes of the Will Cain Show, exclusive interviews, and YouTube shorts. This might be as good as it gets. I'm going to have to explore if it's ever been better for me as a fan of sports, largely in Dallas. I've got two teams in the Western Conference Finals. I had a college football team in the college football playoff. And you kind of combine that with my other favorite activity, which might be, outdoorsmanship and country music and just generally being a redneck. I had a big week in sports, and I got to see Morgan Wallen. I went to the Academy of Country Music Awards, and it all came with a cost. Two-a-days, Dan, Young Establishment, James, Tinfoil Pat. If I said to you, hey, I'm going to say a couple of words, and you tell me what this brings to mind. Extreme sports, surf, fish. What does that all add up to you? If I combine those words together, what do you think of?
ESPN2.
Spike TV. The Man Channel.
Okay. Me too. Now, I was operating on 2 nights of 4 hours sleep. So when I went to the Academy of Country Music Awards on Thursday night, I had to get up early on Friday morning to play pickleball with Kid Rock on television. And Gracie Hunt and former Miss Universe. So 4.5 hours sleep. Then double down on Friday night, go to the Morgan Wallen concert. It was fun. Bunch of us from Fox, Rachel and Sean Duffy, Brian Kilmeade, Dana Perino. It was a good time. It was I muscled through on the power of Zen. But it put me into a position of another 4-hour night's sleep. So by the time I got to Saturday morning, I'm doing an interview with a guy that caught a 12-foot tiger shark, right? And he caught it, and he set some kind of record. He's caught numerous fish. And, I get a little packet when I do television, and I'm reading in the packet, surf, fish. And my last question to him is, man, I got to hear more about this. Like, how do you combine surfing and fishing? Right?
How does
like
that
you guys.
work? Yeah, how does that work?
Right.
I've heard of
Spike
paddleboarding
TV.
and fishing.
Yeah, ESPN the Ocho. I'm thinking of all this stuff that you guys are thinking of, right? When I'm operating on 8 hours sleep over 2 nights. It didn't take long for the viewers to say, Will, you are a dumbass. Fishing from the beach is called surf fishing. And he tolerated me, and he didn't out me as a dumbass. But again, leaning into the whole brand, here's Will in his Western shirt, and he knows about outdoorsmanship. I mean, among the most embarrassing things, I've done many embarrassing things on television. They don't bother me. This one bothered me. Of course, fishing from the beach is surf fishing. And I'm going to blame it on the fact that it was 8 hours sleep over 2 nights. So you all know at home what surf fishing is, and now so do I. It's fishing from the surf, not on a surfboard. Let's get into it because we have a fascinating interview today. One of my favorite follows on X is the Redheaded Libertarian. She's going to be joining us in just a moment for, some of the best stuff you ever heard out of Congress. But I'm going to suspect that Josie's opinion is not unlike mine. Hey, this is Thomas Jefferson versus James Madison. You got to hear this audio between Marjorie Taylor Greene, AOC, and Jasmine Crockett. But let us start with story number 1. Michael Cohen is once again on the stand against Donald Trump. Over the past week, it has been established through cross-examination that Michael Cohen hates Donald Trump. The defense has established a motivation, at least in part. Michael Cohen's posted TikTok videos. They've been made aware to the jury. Everyone at home who's on social media can see him talking about, oh, Alvin Bragg has done such a service here. I can't wait to see Donald Trump in jail. These aren't the sober-minded thoughts. It's not the testimony of someone simply seeking justice. It is a motivated individual who has emotional attachment to, like, I don't know, I guess at this point, 50% of the population to seeing Donald Trump, quote unquote, behind bars. Well, that calls into question the credibility of Michael Cohen. Combine that with the fact that it's been established as well that he's just an untrustworthy liar. I mean, he's been convicted of perjury. He's lied before Congress. He's violated the oath of a court in saying he wouldn't follow the instructions of a judge when it comes to Donald Trump. So why should we suspect or believe that he's going to follow the oath to tell the truth on the stand in this trial? He's lied on numerous occasions in multiple venues, who has a motivation that he hates Donald Trump. But add to that, liar, hater, now thief when it comes to Donald Trump. This morning, the defense attorneys with Michael Cohen on the stand established that Cohen, and this is somewhat complicated, but I think we can all follow through with this. The allegation is that Cohen was an attorney on retainer, and he was paid a certain amount as that attorney. How those expenses were then distributed from Michael Cohen is the issue. Was it with the knowledge of Donald Trump directly to reimburse him for a non-disclosure agreement with Stormy Daniels, or was it understood to be just part of general legal services? Well, Cohen testified the following, that he made that $50,000 was owed to a company owned by Michael Cohen, Redfinch. Michael Cohen paid Redfinch $20,000 of the $50,000. He then turns to the Trump organization and says, you still owe Redfinch $50,000. So because there's an agreement between the Trump organization's accountant, Adam Weisselberg, to gross up what Cohen is owed. That means take whatever he is owed, gross it up for taxes so that whatever he gets in the end after paying taxes is equal to the arrangement. Because they gross up what he is owed, Cohen essentially steals an extra $30,000, grossed up, doubled, an extra $60,000 from the Trump organization without paying that on to Redfinch, without the Trump organization knowing that he's essentially disbursed that debt from Redfinch. He steals $60,000 from Trump. That's just not my description of a somewhat complicated legal affair. It's the testimony of Michael Cohen. One of the defense attorneys, Blanche, and this is from the notes coming from people inside the overflow room and in the courtroom who report for Fox. Blanche asked Cohen if he lied to Weisselberg about the money owed because of Redfinch. Cohen testifies, correct. Then Blanche presses, you did steal from the Trump organization based upon expected reimbursements from Redfinch. Cohen says, yes, sir. As of today, he testifies he lied once again, this time to the Trump organization, and he stole $60,000 from the Trump organization. If you listen to CNN or MSNBC, you are going to get a certain picture of how this trial is going, the testimony of Michael Cohen. And that picture will be that within a matter of weeks, Donald Trump could be in jail. By the way, arguments or testimony and cross-examination should end this week. Closing arguments early next week. For their fever dreams could possibly mean that as early as next week, Donald Trump behind bars. When we went to the Morgan Wallen concert on Friday, it was a Sprinter van full of, as I said, Dana Perino, me, the Duffys, Judge Jeanine Pirro, Lawrence Jones was in there. And, I did ask Judge Jeanine, who spent some time in the courtroom, hey, do you think, having been in there, that we're in an echo chamber, that we're getting legal experts or we're getting analysts who are telling us that it's going a certain way. And that if you are someone reporting for CNN, you can credibly hear that it's going another way. No, hell no. No rational person could sit in there and say that this has gone well for Michael Cohen. Judge Jeanine Pirro. I do wonder about the state of mind of 12 jurors from New York. Paul Murrow, a former investigator and who is a expert on crime and legal issues for Fox, said he is worried that jury sees this not through the lens of the Wall Street Journal, but that they see it through the lens of the New York Times. And that's the final analysis. How does the emotional impact of 12 people who have a preconceived bias impact facts and evidence and color justice? We won't know the answer to that question until they return from deliberation. But right now, the star witness for the prosecution has admitted to being a liar, to hating Donald Trump, and to stealing from Donald Trump. You have to hear this audio. It's truly entertaining. It's embarrassing. But is it just part of a great American tradition? You got to hear AOC versus MTG versus Jasmine Crockett. That with the Redheaded Libertarian coming up next on The Will Cain Show.
The world of business moves fast. Stay on top of it with the Fox Business Rundown. Every Monday and Friday, Fox Business reporters, anchors, and hosts will bring you beneath the stock market speculation and boardroom drama to tell you about the biggest business stories of today. Whether you're on Main Street or Wall Street, Fox Business is invested in you. Listen to the Fox Business Rundown every Monday and Friday at foxbusinesspodcasts.com, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you download your favorite podcasts.
Fox Nation and Sean Hannity take you back to the Wild Wild West,
where fortunes were made, rules were broken, and legends were born. This was an age of outlaws and lawmen.
Throw up your hands! Your business is done here.
Go inside the lives of the West's biggest names.
Some were heroes, some were villains, but most were a bit of both, and that's where the fun begins.
Yeah, you hurt me. I want to hurt you.
This is Outlaws and Lawmen, now streaming on Fox Nation.
Sign up now at foxnation.com today.
I'm Charles Payne. Listen to my Unstoppable Prosperity podcast so I can get you making money right now. Whether stocks are hitting new all-time highs or in free fall mode, opportunities abound. So why are so many potential investors still sitting on the sidelines? In a new season of my podcast, I'm going to get you in the game. After 38 years on Wall Street, I'm ready to impart some lessons and get you invested in the greatest wealth-generating machine in history. Listen anytime, everywhere at foxbusinesspodcast.com or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
Girl, baby, girl. You bleach blonde, butch body. What now? Testimony. The best you've ever heard from Congress. It's the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com on the Fox News YouTube channel. Just hit subscribe, leave a comment, join our community. Jump here into the Will Cain Show and on demand in audio format by hitting subscribe at Apple or on Spotify. This video, this audio, this interaction, it's gold. And who better to analyze it with than the Redheaded Libertarian? Josie, the Redheaded Libertarian, you can find her on X at TRHL Official. She hosts Spaces with Josie on X. She's also part of the Timcast Network. Joins us now on the Will Cain Show. Josie, it's nice to meet you. Nice to have you on the Will Cain Show.
It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for having me, Will.
I enjoy your content. I follow you on X, and I thought you're a pretty good person to go ahead and give me some commentary on what might go down as a Jeffersonian versus Adams exchange in Congress. So let's clue the audience in on what went down, first with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then the voice of AOC here last week in Congress.
Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No,
what you're
ain't
reading.
nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order.
Mr. Chairman,
That's beneath
would
even
you please regain order of your committee?
Order.
I do have a point of order, and I would like to move to take down Ms. Greene's words. That is
absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack
meeting will
the
suspend.
physical
Meeting will
appearance of another
suspend.
person?
Are your
Move
feelings hurt?
her words down.
Aw.
Oh, girl, baby, girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play. with
Baby,
me.
girl?
We're gonna,
I don't think
We are going to
so.
move, and we're going to take your words down.
I second that motion.
So who will have to pay us? Okay. Ms. Greene agrees to strike her words.
I believe she
Chair
needs to apologize.
recognizes
No,
Mr.
she
Perry.
needs to apologize.
Okay, hold on. Then after Mr. Perry's going to be recognized, then Ms. Greene
I'm not
has 4 minutes and
apologizing.
21
Well, then
seconds.
you're not
reserve the right to
striking your
object.
words.
I am
Mr.
not
Perry.
apologizing.
Now let's go. Come on, guys.
Okay, girl, baby, girl. My favorite part, Josie, actually might be that the minute Marjorie Taylor Greene says, maybe your eyelashes have gotten in the way, all the men, almost like at a Tom Brady roast, go, oh, immediately everyone realized, oh, here we go. What do you think, Josie?
There were highlights of that I watched them on a loop because they were just so incredible to me. But like you had said about Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, fighting in Congress goes back to the inception of America. They had their grand fight in the newspapers. There were fights in Congress. They attacked each other. They almost didn't make our country based off the Connecticut Compromise that nobody could agree on. So my opinion is let them fight. This is American to fight. I mean, I wish there were smarter people fighting. So Jasmine Crockett is not the brightest person, but the other thing about her is that whole kind of ghetto ratchet accent she puts on is actually fake. I went back and I found an interview from her from when she started before when she was running for Congress. All right. So it's like 2 years ago. And she's very well educated. All right. She's not very bright, but still had an education. She was privileged. She had an education. And she has a normal voice. But then when she goes on to Congress and she wants to get these sound bites, she does this kind of ghetto sort of accent, and it's fake. It's completely fake. So I thought that was interesting when I was kind of looking into her and what she did. And then I started looking into her as a lawyer and some of the things that she said. And I realized she doesn't know anything about the U.S. Constitution. So I have no idea how she got as far as she did by having no idea what she's talking about.
Well, I saw some of your videos, by the way, breaking down the Constitution, and you, as I am, by the way, are fascinated with the Constitution. But I actually think that makes you and me the outlier, not Jasmine Crockett. I don't think many members of Congress probably truly understand the limitation of their powers or even care to understand the Constitution. What I wonder if is an outlier, Josie, is the acting. Like you point out Jasmine Crockett's, street accent that she puts on in Congress. And by the way, you heard it there from AOC as well. Girl, baby, girl. And I think AOC was raised in Westchester, and I don't know if she's privately school educated, but she's not who she's pretending to be there interestingly, not on the streets, but on the floor of Congress. And it got me thinking, I don't know how many politicians, I don't think as many as I suspect are former drama kids, but it got me thinking acting, how much of this, and I don't mean positionally and policy-wise, Josie, I mean, politicians across the aisle, regardless of political party, feign passion on different issues and even fake positions on issues. But I wonder how many are actually acting. I think about Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. They've done black accents in front of black audiences, And I just wonder, how many of these politicians feel comfortable acting? Because I think you're right. What we see from Crockett and what we saw from AOC, that's drama. That's acting.
Yes. What I had seen from Jasmine Crockett when I had analyzed her video about the Constitution, she was talking about the border. She was talking about how Governor Abbott doesn't have any right to make laws that supersede the Constitution about the border. And she said this in 3 or 4 different ways in this little TikTok video. She was being interviewed by MSNBC. I think it was one of the corporate press. And so I realized what she was saying. She was citing the Supremacy Clause, which says that a governor can't make a law that supersedes the Constitution, which is correct. However, he was just trying to enforce the Constitution with a rule that already exists. Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution says that when the states are being invaded, it is the federal government's job to protect them. And if they're failing to do that, which they are, then that falls to the states and to the people under the 10th Amendment. And she was completely ignoring this and telling people that he's trying to create rules. He's trying to make laws that don't exist. And I don't know if she has if she's ever read the Constitution, as I have, as you have. It really seemed to come from a place of ignorance or a talking point that she was handed or something she didn't quite understand.
Yeah, I want to share with the audience a video. This is not your video, and people can go find you on X, the Redheaded Libertarian, to see you kind of providing a constitutional rebuttal. But I want to give another example from that moment in Congress where you talk about, her acting and her accent, because we heard mostly from AOC in response to Marjorie Taylor Greene there, but this is the rebuttal from Jasmine Crockett. Listen to this.
Why don't you debate me?
Mr. Chairman, the minority.
It's pretty self-evident.
You're not.
Yeah, you're not.
Out of order.
You don't have enough
You're out of order.
intelligence.
Chair recognizes Mr. Perry.
Okay, move to strike
I'd like to strike those words as well.
Move to
I would
strike
like to
the
order.
lady's words again.
That's 2 requests to strike. That's 2 requests to strike.
Oh, they cannot take the words.
There's another motion to strike her words again. Please
All right.
get
Okay.
your members under
Here's
control.
the correct apology. Ms. Greene, do you agree to unanimous consent to strike your words?
I repeat again for the second time. Yes, I'll strike
right.
my words, but I'm not apologizing.
Without objection.
Not apologizing.
21 seconds.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Who's?
It's me.
Ms. Crockett.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
Hold
a
on.
part
I'm
of it.
trying to find clarification on what qualifies.
Chairman, motion to strike
I had no
those
idea
words.
what you just said.
Comer's the star of that, by the way. A what now? It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing audio.
That's brilliant. I kept just rewatching that. I just thought it was so funny. It took me a while to figure out what she was addressing. Like, I was like, did somebody say that to her, or is she making that up? She was making that up. So she actually, Jasmine Crockett, who actually blocked me this morning. Is that legal? I don't know. But she made she's releasing a clothing line with all of her clapbacks. All right. And that's one of them. So she releases a picture with the shirt that says bleach blonde butch bad body or whatever. And under it says Crockett clapbacks, and she spelled her own name wrong.
I saw that. Yeah.
Rockrtt. And somebody was like, what does that mean? And she goes, you're just going to have to buy it and see. And I don't think she realized that she spelled her name wrong. But we're not dealing with the brightest.
No, not bright, but also just not real. And that's what I keep coming back to. Okay, look, I always try to put myself into check, Josie, on this stuff, like, don't be a partisan. But I want to go back to that acting thing for a minute. I definitely think we can come up with examples of Republicans who don't believe positions that they advocate and feign passion and anger. I can't, and I'll rely on you if you can, I can't come up with the Republican politician that does fake accents and fake personas. You know what I mean? And I'm willing, if I'm forgetting it, audience, drop it into the comments of YouTube or Facebook, because I want to be real. I want to be honest, and I don't want to be partisan. I want to be correct. But this seems to be a privilege of Democrats to kind of put on this drama persona, unless I'm forgetting some Republican, Josie.
I can't think of any at all. Any accent is organic. Like Thomas Massey and Rand Paul are Kentucky, and they sound like they're from Kentucky. And when they speak to anybody else, they don't mirror them. Mirroring is something that narcissists do. And I think that a lot of people who get into power, as George Washington said in his farewell address, occupants of public office love power and are prone to abuse it. And I mean, a way to do that is divide and conquer, as we see the most, but also it's to manipulate. And so Democrats, when they get into power, and, you know, the Uniparty does this too. It is both sides that do this, but it's primarily in Democrats where they're going to mirror people that they think that they can have some effect on or have some power over. And that's minorities, you know, so they'll go into it and be like, I'm just like you, you know, and they're not, they're narcissists. So we don't really see people who, and I want to be careful with my words because I'm a libertarian. I don't favor someone over another. I'm not a big fan of Republicans, but I hate the Democrats. So I want to be careful with how I would say that, but I can't think of really a single redeeming Democrat that doesn't do that, that isn't in this for power and money. And I think that kind of speaks to how they abuse the positions that they're in.
One last point on this video. I agree with you on something. Look, these three are not Jefferson and Adams, but this fight is not what makes them less than Jefferson and Adams. Like, this is part of the American tradition. What makes them less than Jefferson and Adams is their intellect and their effectiveness. I got in this debate over the weekend with some of my Fox friends, like the role of etiquette. I'm actually not big on etiquette. You know, I don't care. I don't look at Washington, D.C. as this esteemed hall of prestige. But what I would like it to be is a place of accomplishment and principle and philosophy and understanding power. And I'll say to all three of these individuals, set aside etiquette. I just don't think it's effective. Like, what you're doing, it's not working. I don't think it's accomplishing any productive job. And again, it's not because you broke etiquette. It's just because, like, the substance of what you're contributing is so lacking. It's just nothing. At least Jefferson Adams knew something about a founding of a country.
They were brilliant too. They were geniuses, founded our country. We're not dealing with geniuses. We're dealing with midwit intelligence who think that they're smarter than they actually are. And those are the most dangerous IQ of all. So yes, I agree with you.
Well, I want to go into something you just said I found fascinating. So you said that's mirroring. That's a narcissistic personality reflection. So I want to move to Harrison Butker, the Kansas City Chiefs kicker, who gave a speech to Benedictine Catholic College, and he talked about the valuable role of being a mother, of being a wife. He said that he believes that women have been sold a lie for probably half a century, that the most accomplished thing you can do in this world is to venture into careerism, to essentially follow the feminist path into doing what men have done, which is march off to work, bring home the bacon. That's the most productive life. He said it's not. Being a mother, being a wife is a much more fulfilling role in life. I found it utterly uncontroversial, but also rare and insightful. And it's not to say that women, can't and shouldn't and don't often pursue successful careers. It's just, hey, let's not forget the most valuable contribution to society, which is raising a generation. I want to play for you a clip from NBC Sports Boston. Now, Harrison Butker was crushed across the landscape of mainstream outlets. And of course, that was going to happen in sports. But I think the strongest clip came from NBC Sports Boston. Listen to this.
Contrary to what some may think, I actually strongly believe in free speech and the right to hold opinions that are different from my own. I also believe there are consequences for speaking out. But what I really believe is there is a big difference between an opinion and dehumanizing hateful speech. I am so tired of people telling those of us at the center of these dehumanizing rants that we need to respect everyone's opinion. No, we don't, and we don't have to tolerate it either. You are allowed to think differently than others. You are not allowed to go out of your way to belittle, degrade, and depict groups that don't look like you as subhuman. That's not an opinion. That is hate, plain and simple.
Josie, the best I can tell, dehumanizing, subhuman, she is accusing Butker of that because he said that Pride Month reflected a sin, which, again, is utterly uncontroversial in the world of Christianity at large, Catholicism even more so. And then he is I'm not Catholic, so I don't know the correct terminology, but he is Latin Mass strict Catholic, and he basically said living a lifestyle reflected in Pride Month is a sin, and that is what warranted that from NBC Sports Boston.
So that woman made, I think, 3 points that were completely wrong and completely contradictory. She said he was talking to her, which he wasn't. He was a Catholic talking to Catholics at a Catholic college. She said she loves free speech, but not speech she disagrees with, which then you don't love free speech. You know, that's the thing about free speech is you have to protect the stuff that you really hate. That's the stuff that you have to fight for, or you don't believe in free speech. And that means all the stuff that you see as hateful. And I'm Catholic, as you can see, Cabrini is a poster on my wall right now. And so I was born, raised Catholic. I believe he's Orthodox Catholic, which is going to the Latin Mass, which is something I didn't do. I'm Irish Catholic. So what, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Well, you made a Rick Perry mistake. You said there was 3 things she said. So don't make a Rick Perry mistake. Never make 3 points. You can always get 2, and that third one's a roll of the dice.
I'm like, I lost it. It's gone. I can't remember. It was so unimportant and unoriginal what she said that it just escaped my mind. But why he was attacked so hard is he spoke against the anti-human orthodoxy. And he was moved to tears praising his wife. She's his rock. You know, she raised the children. She's the primary caregiver. She homeschools. And he was just like, he had to stop talking so he could gather himself. This is not a man who thinks women are not important. I mean, I can't think of times where people have done that about women who are working, you know, like this is something he feels so valuable about that. And then he went on to tell men to be unapologetic about their masculinity. And he was speaking against the cultural emasculation of men. And this is another cardinal sin of wokeness is, and he was explaining why it's so dangerous, which is something they don't want you to know. It's important to have fathers in the home. It's one of the things that keeps children out of jail statistically. And it keeps them happy. And it shows they need that kind of masculine figure. There's a study that's done, and it was people who are in jail, how they were raised, right? 80% are in jail were raised by a single mother, right? You have the same chance of going to jail if you were raised by a single father or if you were raised by a mother and a father. Because being raised by a father, these are young men, being raised by a father, you're taught stoicism. You're taught to deal with your feelings stoically. You're not taught to use your emotions and your fists to solve a problem. You're told to have patience. And they don't want that. They don't want people to know that. They don't want you to know that if you're living for somebody else, then you don't have time to be sick and depressed and fat and lonely and medicated and a victim. And they're not able to have power over you if you're living for somebody else, because you want to have as much power as you can to be able to give them the best life that you can.
That's fascinating about single fathers. And I mean, I believe what you're talking about with stoicism. You know, when I segued into this conversation, I said, I picked up on you talking about narcissism and mirroring in politics, and particularly among Democrats. I know you studied, or you were set to study psychiatry at some point in your life. And one of the things I've seen you tweet about that I find fascinating, and when you first said it, I was like, is this a real thing? What is this? Like, you started talking about like cluster B personalities. And I think you talked about it largely within the context of the trans issue, and how many, there's studies on like trans kids and the personality types of the kids that is a commonality, meaning there's higher incidences of somewhere on the autism spectrum, a whole host of other personality types. But what was more fascinating to me was the personality types of the mothers of trans kids, and that you were saying that a ton of cluster B personalities. Like, what is a cluster B personality?
That's narcissism, that's bipolar, that's histrionic personalities. That's where a mother puts her own needs before her child, uses the child as a prop. Munchausen's by proxy is like a symptom that falls within there. So 60% of boys who are trans kids have a mother with a cluster B personality disorder. 60%.
Wow.
And the numbers, I'm so passionate about this because I raised a tomboy in Massachusetts before moving to Florida, and I saw the way they were kind of coming for her, So the children that they target, and you need to think about this because it's alarming when you realize what changing a gender does. It's sterilizing a child, okay? They target gay children, foster children, indigenous children, children who are lonely or looking for a community. And they target, the autism is crazy. It's something like 80% of girls, right? And so these are the people that they also want sterilized. And at the same time, we know that there's an unhuman orthodoxy that we're dealing with on top of this. So they're trying to depopulate, and they're trying to sterilize the children. Migrant children, that's another one that's targeted. They're trying to sterilize the children who are less desirable in ways. So that's something that should alarm people when they realize who is targeted by this. And
that would be fascinating to as you said, like see trans boys in the connection to the mothers. And then I think with trans girls, it's a real social contagion phenomenon. It's a trend phenomenon where the girls kind of, it goes in, I think Abigail Schreier wrote about this, right? It's like it goes in clusters in towns or schools when it comes to girls. But I'd be really curious what boys, like you just said, what'd you say, 60% cluster B moms?
Yep. It's moms who probably always wanted a daughter, and boys who want to please their moms boys. With girls, so tomboys, okay, for instance, I'm raising a tomboy, and they tend to outgrow it around puberty. They tend to kind of become more girly, which my tomboy did. So they don't kind of go toward that, I think I might be a boy thing. They're pushed toward that socially. They're told, oh, you dress like this. Have you thought maybe you're a lesbian? Oh, you dress like this. Have you thought maybe you're a boy? And that's alarming. Maybe you're a they, them. Maybe you don't know what you are. Maybe you're questioning. And so it's put into the heads of girls, whereas with boys, it seems to be put into their heads by their mothers and like a reward system, so why would, like every time they make mom happy, it's because I'm wearing mom's dress and her lipstick and she's so happy. And, because it's like cluster B personality. It's like the newest bag, right? It's really fashionable right now to have a trans kid. You hit the woke points. You are original. You can go to the rallies. Everybody looks at you like you are special and you are brave because you are raising a trans kid. And it tends to be mothers who trans their sons into girls.
Well, finally taking this back to Harrison Butker, because the launching point was the cluster B. I find a lot of that kind of mindset, that narcissistic mindset, not just in politicians who mirror actions, but in media members who think that he's somehow degrading women. When I heard you use the term, and I certainly believe he's actually elevating women. Like this is a thing where you're celebrating like one of the most essential roles throughout the history of humanity, in civilization, and saying, hey, women, you have something that you can do that no man can do, and it is so integral and should be celebrated. And by all means, you should feel fulfilled raising the next generation. Finally, I want to talk to you about Joe Biden. Joe Biden gave speeches this weekend. He was at Morehouse College. He was also in Detroit. All kinds of stuff came out of those. He called January 6thers erectionists, which is, I don't know, I guess that's better than insurrectionists to be an erectionist. He said that George Floyd was murdered and that if you're a black man, the country doesn't love you. But I think maybe the most important thing that he said in terms of electoral prospects is he said, I was vice president when the pandemic started and Barack Obama sent me to Detroit to work with the mayor. We're not even talking about a close timeline here, Josie. And when I see that and him saying that, I know we had the announcement of the 2 debates last week, and then, of course, there's the rules, no crowd, mics turned down during one. I don't know if any rules can save Joe Biden. I don't know how he debates, and if he can't debate, I don't know how he remains the candidate for president.
Donald Trump was saying that he wanted to make sure that Joe Biden had a drug test, which I agree with, because there's no way he's done the State of the Union sober like he is. His eyes are bugged out. He doesn't blink. They they know he's sick, and they get him all hyped up on something, some kind of amphetamine to just get him through the next speech. Like what we're seeing is a very sick man being exploited. And the thing is, this is great for the deep state. They can completely control him. He can do whatever they tell him to do. And he slips up every now and then because he's senile, but they're able to completely control this man and have their way and do their will while he is the face of it. So they'd like him to be the nominee, but it's coming to a point where he's having a lot more slip-ups. It's more obvious that he's not the one in charge of our country, and we look weak on a national or on a geopolitical scale because we have, Russia is getting bolder and China is getting bolder. And I mean, they were just together, the Xi and Putin, with their having a meeting, and they both had their men with the nuclear, with their footballs and in their cases right behind them. And that was a show of power, so they know that we're not being run by a president, that our system is broken and it's been infiltrated, and everybody's aware of that. So they don't know how long they can keep the facade up, and they need to get somebody else in there that they can completely control, if not Joe Biden. But right now he's the easiest thing because there's no pushback.
Do you think they will? Do you think Democrats will replace Joe Biden?
I had predicted last year in February that they were going to replace him with Gavin Newsom, but they really wanted to see Gavin Newsom go up against Ron DeSantis. And we saw that. We saw them debate each other and stuff. And that was something they wanted to see, that dynamic, because Gavin Newsom is charming and Ron DeSantis is kind of autistic. So there was a balance where he was going to look better. But now it'd be him up against Donald Trump, who is charming, who has those qualities. So honestly, I know they don't want Kamala in there because she's even worse when it comes to slip up somehow. She's not even senile. I guess it'll be, you don't want to think anything bad's going to happen, but I think, something might have to happen because he's convinced he's going to run another term in it. He's the candidate. I'm sure they've done up the ballots and he's on them. I'm just not sure what's going to happen. I assume they're just going to go through for another 4 years, and maybe he'll pass away in office, or maybe they'll take him out and put Kamala in, or I don't know.
It's short-termism to think, how does he debate? How does he stick through an election? The real question is, how does he serve another 4 years as president? Like that's the impossibility that's hard to imagine.
I think
you can check Josie out again. Go ahead.
I think they just want to get him in there and then figure it out after. I think they just don't want Trump in. They want to get him in, and then we'll cross that bridge after in the next 4 years.
And then the powers that be can honestly continue to do what they're already doing, maintain control in Washington, D.C. TRHL official, the Redheaded Libertarian on X, also host of Spaces with Josie on X and a part of the Timcast network. I really have enjoyed. I'm glad to have the Redheaded Libertarian. Glad to have you on, Josie. Thank you so much for being on the Will Cain Show.
Thank you so much for having me, Will.
All right. Hope to do it again. You guys have jumped into the comment section on YouTube regarding that conversation, some of the questions we brought up. Here is Harold Richard. The high school mean girls crap in today's political climate is an embarrassment. Tambry says, sad how unprofessional Congress is. And then Juana Mora says, most people in government agencies at this time don't seem to know the Constitution, rule of law, or how this democracy worked. Or better said, how this republic works. I totally agree. And I don't think that not only are they ignorant, they don't care about their ignorance of how this works, the Republic of the United States. It doesn't get much better than this for me. I'm at the top of the mountain. My sports nirvana next on The Will Cain Show.
I'm Charles Payne. Listen to my Unstoppable Prosperity podcast so I can get you making money right now. Whether stocks are hitting new all-time highs or in free fall mode, opportunities abound. So why are so many potential investors still sitting on the sidelines? In a new season of my podcast, I'm going to get you in the game. After 38 years on Wall Street, I'm ready to impart some lessons and get you invested in the greatest wealth-generating machine in history. Listen anytime, everywhere at foxbusinesspodcast.com or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
Fox Nation and Sean Hannity take you back to the Wild Wild West.
Where fortunes were made, rules were broken, and legends were born. This was an age of outlaws and lawmen.
Throw up your hands! The business is done here.
Go inside the lives of the West's biggest names.
Some were heroes, some were villains, but most were a bit of both, and that's where the fun begins.
Yeah, you hurt me. I want to hurt you.
This is Outlaws and Lawmen, now streaming on Fox Nation.
Sign up now at foxnation.com today.
Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
That heat's going to be out there for one more day.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com.
It doesn't get much better than Dallas. Well, I guess it could if it's tailored specifically for Will Cain. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page at Facebook and YouTube. Find the Will Cain Show, hit subscribe. There's a link on YouTube right now underneath this live stream in the text description, and you can get alerts, and you can join the community, and you can leave comments, and you can watch old episodes of the Will Cain Show. And on Facebook, you can check us out as well, or subscribe on Apple or on Spotify for the podcast if you ever miss an episode of the Will Cain Show. The Dallas Mavericks are in the Western Conference Finals. The Dallas Stars are in the Western Conference Finals. The Texas Rangers are your reigning World Series champion. The Texas Longhorns were in the college football semifinal, the playoff. I happen to be a fan. If I'm allowed to leave the greater Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, I happen to be a fan. Yes, they are the dynasty, so it is a bit of front-runner status, but I happen to be a fan of Manchester City, who just won their 4th Premier League title in a row. And then there's the Dallas Cowboys, 12-5 for 3 straight seasons. And that's the end of that. Somebody sent me one of those pictures of the Special Forces guys about to come around a corner, and there's 4 Special Forces guys. And it's over each of the Special Forces guys is Mavs, Stars, Horns, Rangers. And in the middle of the lineup, as they're about to come around the corner, is a clown. And it says Cowboys. Thought it was pretty good because it's a little hard to not think the Cowboys getting blown out by the Green Bay Packers in the first round of the playoffs doesn't undercut all the rest of those. But those are titles we're talking about here. That's Final Four we're talking about here. And although we did a topic on who has it best city-wise, and the run for Boston from, 02 through, I don't know, when did it end? 18, 19, 20? Is about as good as it gets. But, I mean, in 1 year, all your sports franchises, Two-A-Days Dan, Young Establishment James, Tinfoil Pat, in 1 year, I don't know. This might... Right now, it feels like I can say this. If both the Stars and the Mavs lose in the conference finals, it'll be hard to look back on it. But this is all you can ask. You can't ask for titles. You can just ask for runs like this. And that makes your year as a sports fan. So I don't know who's ever had it better.
I don't know. Well, as a New York everything fan, pretty much, I don't ask for titles either because I've learned not to, and I've just gotten disappointed every time. So I'm done with that. So now I'm rooting for the Mavs because the Knicks are out. So I'm right behind you.
You're rooting for the Mavs.
I'm rooting for the Dallas Mavericks. One complaint real quick, if you don't mind. Luka Doncic complains a lot. Always throwing his hands up after every single play. A little LeBron-like.
Fair.
Not a fan.
It's so bad. Trust me, it is so bad. And I actually started thinking about it. I tried to step back because if Luka was on any other team doing this, I would hate him. Yeah. I would. I mean, he's such a genius player, as you were texting us over the weekend, Dan. I know he's making you a fan of his style of play.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he uses that. That's just what he uses to amp himself up. You know what I mean? I started thinking about why he does it, because he does it so much that I began to wonder, does he need it? Does he need to sort of feel adversarial against the refs, and he just fights them all game long? I don't know.
It comes off a little ego. I am the star in this game, and that's it. And I need the call. I need the right call. I know how basketball works, and you're wrong. I'm right.
Yeah. I don't think it comes off as star treatment. Hey, I think it comes off as I know more than you. Like,
Yes.
that's a clear foul,
Yeah,
right? Or that's not a clear foul. And the truth is, he may know more than those refs because they are incredibly unimpressive.
True.
Tinfoil, I saw you had something. What's up?
I was just saying that Tampa Bay had a pretty great run there with the Bucks and the Lightning, both winning championships. I think the Lightning won back-to-back, and then Tom Brady won. So that's pretty hard to do outside of Boston, just in 1 year.
Boston still.
I think
remember that run
the
for
Rays also went to the World Series that year. So
2020, the Mickey Mouse World Series.
Good for Tampa Bay. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. By the way, do I get to add this for Dallas? Scotty Scheffler, arrested going into the PGA Championships, arrested going into Valhalla, comes out. I facetiously put on social media, he's about to ride into Valhalla and destroy this course. And I put the over-under at 65. He shot a 66 that day. I was joking. Good. I was being a little facetious about the 65. He shot a 66 fresh out of the clink. Free Scotty signs. That's a feather in the cap of Dallas.
Struggled a little bit Saturday, came back Sunday, but,
Good weekend.
Not bad. Not bad. The reports are now. Yeah, I mean, you're right about Saturday, but in the end, not bad. Not a bad tournament after getting arrested. They've dropped charges. The police have dropped the charges apparently now against Scotty Scheffler, as they should. That was absolutely absurd. It's ridiculous.
Wonder what happens to the
all right, so I got a Mavs fan on board. I have got Wolves-Mavs set up for the Western Conference Finals, which means Will Cain versus Pete Hegseth. And that's what I'm excited about. That's why I was pulling for the Wolves yesterday. And Pete had the nerve to text me. He just tempted the fate of the gods and just said, I think we're going to roll you. He was not even talking trash. He was like, I'm so excited about this, but I think we're going to roll you. And I'm like, you do you. I think the Wolves will be favored. I'm not sure how the Mavs match up with all those big men they've got and Anthony Edwards. But Will versus Pete, we'll do it right here on Off the Rails of the Will Cain Show. We'll be there for Fox and Friends. We'll do it on social media. This is it. This is the showdown we've been waiting for. If the Stars can push through, it could possibly be Stars, Rangers in the Stanley Cup Final, which would put the Will Cain Show itself at odds. Me versus the producers. Juicy matchups coming up in the middle of sports Nirvana. All right, that's going to do it for me today here on the Will Cain Show. Hit subscribe, jump in the comments, and I'll see you again next time.